Hola criaturas del bosque, bienvenidos una vez más a un nuevo episodio del programa. Hoy estoy sumamente feliz porque les voy a presentar una entrevista que la verdad fue muy especial para mí. La entrevista está en inglés, lastimosamente, o bueno, no lastimosamente, porque todo ocurre y acontece por algo. No he podido encontrar muchos testimonios en español sobre experiencias cercanas a la muerte, pero encontré este testimonio maravilloso de Daniella Amoyal, que nos va a relatar cómo fue su experiencia cercana a la muerte. Como dice ella en el vídeo, solo tuvo una experiencia y nos va a contar de principio a fin cómo fue, qué significó para ella esta experiencia. Si no saben inglés, pueden poner los subtítulos y perfectamente van a poder entender todo lo que ella dice con los subtítulos. La verdad es que están bastante bien y describen muy bien pues toda su historia. Y si tienen cualquier pregunta o duda, la pueden contactar tanto a ella como a mí. Ella lo dice al final del vídeo que aunque no hablen el idioma inglés, le pueden enviar emails, ella los traduce y les responde. La verdad es que es una entrevista bastante mágica, cargada de mucho contenido de valor para quienes les interesen estos temas. Y, y bueno, les recomiendo que la vean. Si les gusta, dejen sus comentarios abajo. Y de nuevo, está en inglés, pero cualquier pregunta o duda, no duden en ponerse en contacto tanto conmigo como con Daniela. Voy a dejar todos sus puntos de contacto en la descripción y espero disfruten la entrevista. Un beso muy grande.
So I only had one, which was in December of 1997. And that was in a car accident. It was on a holiday evening that we were getting ready to travel for a holiday dinner with the family. And as we left our home, my husband was in a truck behind me because he had to bring a ladder back to the house where we were going. On the way to the holiday dinner, an old man ran the stop sign and hit the front passenger side of my vehicle. Thank goodness that's where it got hit, because I did have my 5-year-old son and both of my nephews in the vehicle with me, and my husband in the truck behind me. The way the vehicle was struck, I actually got all the impact. That's why I say thank goodness, because I didn't want any of them, nor, my child, to get hurt. So I was happy that I sustained all the injuries instead of them. So the old man, it was raining, and he ran a stop sign, and I was going about 45 miles an hour to a dead stop. And when I was hit, I realized immediately that I couldn't expand my lungs or get any oxygen in. I literally just could not breathe. And at that moment, I knew I was going to die, because my son was actually trying to talk to me, and I couldn't even answer him, because you can't talk if you can't breathe. I knew I was going to die, and instantly after the impact, I had literally my whole life run in front of me, play out in front of me. And it happened so fast. And then right after that, it was basically every worry that a mother could possibly have. And I remember just everything was coming up about my son, like, how is he going to be? What's his life going to be like without me? What is he going to do with his life? And, how many are going to be involved in his care now? I just knew that I was saying goodbye to everything in life. And then when I had crossed over, I remember my head was to the left and my feet were to the right. I was already outside of my physical body and very aware of my surroundings. I could see that my eyes were closed and I was not breathing. My physical body was dead. However, I was out of it, still very much alive, just not in any earthly element. When I got there, I remember this overwhelmingly incredible, peaceful feeling that there just are no earthly words to explain how peaceful it is. And for example, a lot of people, a lot of souls will ask me, Daniela, can you describe it? And the best analogy I could come up with is, tell me something that makes you peaceful and relaxed. Some people say lighting a candle, some will say taking a bath, some will say, like listening to certain music. So I basically will answer in the sense that, well, multiply that by infinity. And that's about as close as I can get as far as describing that peacefulness. The other thing is, when I did get there, initially all the colors were in contrasts of black, grays, and whites. Other colors were not presented yet. The other thing I remember distinctively was saying, wow, this is home. I mean, we all have homes here on earth, but when you're there, you just know you're home. It's completely different. And the other thing was, I do recall feeling, not seeing, feeling a very, very strong male presence around, that was very protective, so much love. It was so peaceful. And then I do remember looking around, because I was literally trying to observe everything that was around me. And I'm sorry, there was a call that came and I just disconnected it. And observing my surroundings. And I remember there were no walls, there were no windows, there was no floor, there was no time, no schedules, definitely no worries, no problem. If I had to lump it all into a few words, it was literally perfection at its best, unlike anything here on earth. After looking around and taking in a lot, because I did receive a lot of downloads of tons of information that I would probably have to write 1, 2, maybe even 3 books just to cover some of it. However, remember at one point also where I was outside, of course, of the physical body, and I started to turn at a 35, 40 degree angle to the left, as if I was leaving. But the most interesting part of that was it was a knowing that I had to say goodbye to my physical body. In other words, it was a knowing that I was never going to see that body again. Now, where I was heading to, I don't know. But right at that point, as I started to turn, was when all the colors were presented to me. The colors there are very different than what we have on Earth. They are so extremely beautiful. I mean, we have beautiful colors here, and artists do such beautiful artwork with the colors that we have. However, there, the colors are far more vivid, far more brighter and brilliant. And it's not like the colors we had here. So if I had to explain it, it's almost as if the colors here are so watered down. That's how vibrant it is. And they're beautiful. And it got to the point where I could, still looking around, I could see infinity in front of me. It was so endless. It didn't matter how far I reached or how far I looked. It was infinity literally in front of me. So at the point where I was turning that 35 to 40 degrees to the left, leaving my body. I mean, leaving where I was, and I don't know where I was headed to. However, that was right when I came back here, and I recall the paramedic sitting next to my body, and I was telling the paramedic, I can't breathe. And he kept reassuring me, you can breathe. You know, you're talking to me. Keep talking to me. Stay with me. Keep your eyes open. Very comforting, very trying to keep me, with it until I got to the trauma unit. When I got to the trauma unit, they took me back right away. They did cut all my clothes off, every single bit of them off of my body. And I had tons of doctors and nurses working on me. They tried to stabilize me for a little bit over 6 hours. At that time, my 5-year-old was in the emergency room because he did have a little blood under his nose. So he was taken to get checked out, rightfully so. So my husband was literally running back and forth between the emergency room and the trauma unit where I was. And he did tell me at one point that the doctors did come out and tell him that, they were trying to do everything to stabilize me. However, they weren't sure if they were going to be able to. I had sustained enormous amount of injuries, which I've gone through. I actually stopped counting after 30 surgeries, but I'm well in, if not past over 50 surgeries and invasive procedures. I lost body parts to this from bleeding internally so bad in different areas. And it took decades of rehabilitation, meaning physical therapy, aqua therapy, all kinds of different rehabilitation. I had to learn how to breathe properly again because I couldn't get deep breaths. I was doing a lot of shallow breathing from the pain. I did have ribs, come off my spine and chest. So it was very difficult. I had to use a wheelchair. Till I finally progressed and used a cane, and then finally got to the point where now I can dance again and run. So it was a lot of work, but at the same time, I have 3 beautiful angels, my children, and it was every day I kept reminding myself that you have 3 sets of eyes watching you. What do you want them to learn here? And I really wanted them to learn to never give up. It might be a hard battle, or it might be a very hard road, which for me, it clearly was. So they got to see that you don't ever give up. And then here, even though I studied psychology in college and went on to radiology, which I practiced for a while. However, my life changed after this accident, and I could no longer practice due to the limitations of the disabilities that I had from the accident. But even at that, being 55 years old, I did go back to school a while ago, and I just finished up my doctorate degree in counseling, as well as metaphysics and natural holistic care. That was more my interest now, after what I had gone through. Coming back was very, very different. Coming back, I had pretty much everything in my life changed. All of a sudden, I see things that other people can't see. I feel everything that's going on, whether it happened, is going to happen, or will happen. And I'm able to see spirits and communicate with them. So I came back with mediumship. And then I also came back with extremely healing hands. But what I discovered too is I can do medical intuition and scan bodies and find exactly what is wrong, the target of the problem. And I've been able to help souls all over the world that have been to doctors for 10 to 40, 50 years and have exhausted all their medical options. And I have been able to get them back their quality of life than they've ever had. So between the mediumship, the medical intuition, the medical scans, the spiritual counseling, trauma counseling, I've been extremely successful in helping many, many people. And as we discussed before the interview, I've been able to get people even out of their deathbeds, all different ages with all different problems, just through even the distance healing that I do. So my whole life changed, and I realized more than anything, everything that I was doing before, that was my purpose then. But after I had died and come back, I came back with a whole different purpose. And as much as I loved everything that I did before, nothing has been more peaceful. And so you are so in peace with everything as what I'm doing today. And, when you go through a lot of trauma, you tend to understand at a lot of a deeper level. And in combination with a lot of the knowledge that and information that was downloaded into me, it has been beyond perfect. And I couldn't have been any happier than I have been in the last several years of, changing everything around and using my gifts and my abilities, as well as the past education and experience. But it was a lot to go through. There were a lot of difficulties. I ended up having miscarriages, about 4 of them, because of the complications. All 3 of my children were born extremely premature, but with no problems. I was very diligent in their care and everything, and they have thrived and achieved things that if you're born normal, these kids can't even achieve. They've just done amazing, and I couldn't be any more grateful. So when I look back at everything that I had to go through with the gifts that I was given and what I'm able to do, I feel blessed to have that experience. As hard as it was, as challenging as it was, at times as depressing as it was literally a constant battle. And when I say constant battle, I mean daily for decades. But now that I've been doing so much better and I've been able to go back to school and been able to do these things to help people, I'm really grateful for that experience and what I had to go through. Although it took many years of my life, it's truly been a blessing all around.
Yeah, I can see that it has for what we were discussing prior to the interview, and how you now love what you do, and how you were able also to help so many people around the world. So maybe it was something that you had to go through to be able to have those capacities, those skills that you have now. So I have a question. So whenever you were on your near-death experience, and you said that you traveled to a place where you could see all different colors, and because some people say that before they get to this place, that it's they describe it of some sort of a realm, and some others, we call it heaven. Before you got there, you went through this black hole or this black tunnel that it's called a void, or you just went straight up to the colors and the light?
Because of the severity of the impact, I pretty much went instantly. I did not see that bright light or a dark tunnel. I literally landed right there. There were no colors yet, as I expressed. It was the black, grays, and whites, and the colors didn't represent until I was turning, and then I could see a lot more. But I did not see a bright light, nor did I enter any tunnel, and I did not, for example, have family members that have passed there. That was not in my experience.
Oh, so it would have been maybe a place, like an interim place, you think would be something like that? Or
No, it was definitely there. It was definitely there.
okay.
Yeah. It wasn't, I mean, I was there. I got to see a lot. Again, all the download of information, colors. It was, for example, when I was telling you, it was as if I had to, it was a knowing that you're going somewhere else now. Say goodbye to your physical body. That's when, I was starting to turn and all the colors presented itself. It wasn't a place where I could say, oh, this is somewhere in the middle. This was the most peaceful place. This was the most beautiful place. This was the most perfect place. And infinity is right in front of you. A lot of near-death experiences are different, the experience. However, there's a lot of commonalities in them. And then, of course, my situation was a little bit different in a sense that I wasn't, for example, at a hospital going into cardiac arrest or, where they're injecting all kinds of medications and things like that. So when studies have been done on people that have near-death experiences, they take that into consideration because it's known that certain medications will give you that like hellish NDE experience. Mine wasn't. Mine was so pure and natural.
So, it might differ from also the kind of death that you are experiencing at the moment. You feel or believe that it will vary according to that, or also, from what I've read, and I don't know if you can answer this for me, depending on what you believe, the situation is presented differently, so you feel comfortable with the whole process that you're going through. So if, for instance, you believe in a certain God, or if you believe that you will encounter your family members once you're there, this is exactly what's going to happen, but just for the sake of your own
Well, I always thought when I pass, I'll be with my family. Of course, that would be the biggest wish that we could have, as we want to be as close as we can to them forever. But my experience did not introduce that at all. Some people they claim to see God, they claim to see Jesus Christ, they claim to see prophecies and things like that. Mine was not. I did not. Mine didn't involve religion or, any type of prophecy, for example. However, as I mentioned before, that upon arriving there, I felt a huge presence, very dominant presence of a male presence that was the most loving, caring, perfect in every way. But did I actually see, for example, God in front of me or any of the prophecies? No, my experience was not that way. Yeah, it was different.
And when you started receiving your downloads from general information, so how would you describe that new access to knowledge, and how were your skills started to develop on time after your near-death experience? Was just right away, or it just happened as
So for example, When I had my accident in 97 and my 25-year-old was born in towards the end of 1998, I had to have an emergency C-section, barely numbed from that, and went into a coma for 3 days. He was born 1 pound, 2 ounces. I was only 5 months pregnant. And after he was in the neonatal intensive care unit and could come home, the first night that he came home was the first time I saw spirits in front of me, to the clarity of what it was. It was the first night he had come home, and I always kept my kids, my babies, in a bassinet next to me because they're tiny, but I breastfed them all for 2 years, so I always kept them next to me. And the first night that he came home, and I had just finished breastfeeding him, he had fallen asleep, so I gently put him into his bassinet. And right when I put him in the bassinet and I went to lay down, the way my room was set up, my bed was facing the doorway of the bedroom door. And I remember looking up, and all of a sudden I saw a silhouette of a man in a black suit with one of those big top hats. And he wouldn't reveal his face to me. I didn't recognize who it was. But what I did know, through a mental telepathy, was that all he wanted to do was come next to my baby. And that scared me half to death because I had no idea what he wanted for my baby or why he was trying to even come towards him. And I remember asking him to leave, or at least tell me who he is, what he wants. And he would not reveal who he was. But what he did say to me is, if you look down at my feet, you'll know exactly who I am. So I did look down at his feet, of course, and he had these big black clumpy shoes that had like no part of where your toes go into the shoe. So that wasn't there. And still, I have no idea who this was. And I kept asking him to leave, and he respectfully eventually did. One thing with the spirits and the souls, they are very respectful. I haven't had any like bad experiences except for one that kept trying to wake me up all night. That was just a dark soul, and I just dismissed that one right away, and they left. However, that next morning, I remember I was calling my mother, asking her if there's anyone that she knows that has anything that can resemble this description, mainly the shoes. And, she brainstormed, and she couldn't come up with anything. I had called my father, same thing, brainstorming, trying to figure out, no answer. That evening, when my husband came home from work, he could see how distraught I was. I mean, I was crying from it. It scared me. What is this, spirit want from my son, the soul? And he came in, he's like, what's going on? I said, please come down, come and have a seat. I need to talk to you. And I had explained to him what was happening. And I explained to him that the soul did not want to reveal itself, just to show me, for me to look at his shoes. And that way, that's how I would know who he was. So I was explaining everything to my husband. And my husband just looks at me and goes, Daniella, do you know who that is? And I said, no. I wanted to bop him. Like, this is why I am feeling the way that I am and trying to find the answers. He said, that's my grandfather. I said, how do you know that? Now listen to this. My son, I named him David. His grandfather's name is David. I never met that side of my husband's family because my husband's mother had passed away when my husband was 6 years old. So I never got to meet anyone or, know anyone in the family. So he says to me, that's my grandfather, David. And I said, how do you know? He said, because he had some form of infection. gangrene, and they had to cut off all 10 toes and make custom shoes for him. So apparently, Grandpa David wanted to see the baby David because that was his first day home. So he was happy that he came home, but I had no idea. And it scared me enough because at that point I didn't understand what was going on. There were a lot of changes in my life. And I remember I spoke with spiritual leaders and they broke it down so simple for me. And these are spiritual leaders also that know about when you cross over and things like that. And what they basically explained to me was that when I died, when I crossed over, and then I came back, I never shut that door. So that channel is always open. Once I understood that, it never scared me again. Quite frankly, I love it. It's actually peaceful. You know, they help a lot in many ways. So that was that. And then as far as like the downloads of information has helped me greatly in life with a lot of things that just are not common knowledge, you know, great problem solving things. It's just so much. I literally would have to write books about it. And then the healing, the energy in the hands and the healing was every time I touched someone, it was very different for them, enough to say to me, what do you have in your hands? This is before I realized, because I remember I'm going through trauma. I'm going through a lot of other things. And it just kept going on. And then realizing this and doing like certain things, I could see inside the body when something was wrong. So it all kind of was coming together. But, you know, that took a little time. And I love every part of it. I love every part of it.
What would you say, apart from this experience that that you just told us about, when you saw your husband's grandfather trying to approach your child? Apart from this one, what would be the second one, most impactful experience you ever had after you received your downloads?
As far as with other souls, spirits, or in general?
In general.
Oh my, just for example, clients that have been having major complications since a very young age, since they're teenagers, and they're in their 60s now, and they have not been able to have been helped or cured and have exhausted literally every single thing. And then they come to my clinic, or I do distance and help them through that I don't know that I think I want to call it the biggest blessing is that statistically across the board, within 3 months, they're better than they ever were, even when it all started. So giving them not only their quality of life, but better quality of life back is, that's extremely impactful to see and honorable to be able to do that.
Were you able, after your near-death experience and all of these new skills that you got from it, during your meditations, are you able to connect to what some people call your higher self or your spiritual guides?
I don't have to meditate to reach my higher mind. My higher mind is always active, and I hear it all the time. All the time.
And is it presented to you? Yeah.
You meditate, but my meditation purposes are very different. Because for me, I'm using a lot of energy that I run through me. I don't use all my energy. So when I meditate, it's more to regenerate, more to relax, to recharge. You know, there's different reasons why I meditate, but my higher mind is always, always active. I will see things that normal souls here just don't see. And I've had so many people say, can you read minds and all this? And I do, but you know, that's just part of it. That's just part of it.
Wow. Wow, it's been such an amazing story, and very more than interesting, very awakening, right? Because
there's a lot here.
Yeah.
There is. You got to remember, our eyes literally only see 1% of what's here. It's scientifically proven, only 1%. And that's the interesting part, because I'll see energy. I've never been able to see energy before this, but I see it. I know how to move it. I know how to work with it. I know which ones I want to stay away from. I know which ones are good, to be around and things like that. Absolutely.
So Danny, people might want to know also what kind of healings, or what is everything because you do a lot of things. So they might want to know what you do and how can they reach you. And I'm going to leave it up as well on the comments. Leave all your contact points on the description. But also, if you could also talk a little bit about what you do in terms of healing and all of the therapies that you now do.
Of course, I do a wide range of counseling, natural healing, dream interpretation, mediumship, medical scan, medical intuition. There's a variety, but that kind of sums up a lot of it. However, I officiate weddings and special events. So if anyone does need any of my services, they're more than welcome to reach out to me, and I'll provide them with a detailed list, and they can pretty much pick what is best for them, what resonates best for them and what they need. And I'll provide you 2 ways of contact. One would be, and you may want to also write that so you can put it in there. That way they won't have to reach out to you every time, because that happens. So they can reach me through Facebook Messenger under Daniella Amoyal Gordon, or they can reach me by email, which is Daniella G 8838 at gmail.com. They're more than welcome to reach out to me. I get back to everyone. I just ask for, a little bit of time. It's usually within 12 hours, but I do get contacted by a lot. So, they're more than welcome to use those too. I can't provide you with a website because we're revamping everything with a doctorate degree and all that right now. So it's kind of in the works of being reconstructed.
No problem. I think that will be enough for them to reach you, and I will still put it on the description so they have it handy. So
much. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for telling your story and for providing us with all that knowledge. And I would like you to say goodbye to the audience with a message for those who are afraid of death, who have family member who's going through a disease, or that people who had recently lost a loved one. What would you say to them and to ease their minds and to make them feel that death is not the end?
So we truly, our soul truly never dies. But what I will tell you is if you've lost someone or someone that's terminally ill and you know is going to be crossing over, the most important thing I would really, really want you to understand and feel full-heartedly is that they truly are going to a far better place than we could ever have here on earth. They are truly going to the most beautiful place. And knowing the peacefulness there, knowing the love, knowing the caring, they're always going to be in better hands there as opposed to here. In life, life throws challenges. Life is constantly throwing different things at us. There's always challenges. There's always problems that need to be taken care of, where there it is just perfect.
I agree with you 100%. Thank you so much, Daniella, for taking the time and for being here. You have a beautiful energy and your story is simply magnificent.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. It was my pleasure, and it's all from my heart and soul.
Thanks a lot. And thank you all for joining us this time. I hope you enjoy it. I will leave in the description all the contact points of Daniella, and if you want to reach out for her, please do.
Yeah, and if it's a different language, for example, if they don't speak English, they're more than welcome to send me a message in their language, and I will respond in their language. I mean, of course, I have to translate it. So I don't want to feel like if they have a question or want to reach out, but they don't know how to communicate in English, for example, just go ahead and shoot it in the language that is natural to you, and I will respond back in answering your question.
Yeah, that's pretty helpful. Thank you for bringing that up. I'm pretty sure a lot of people would like to reach you either way, even if they don't speak English.
Thank you so much, sweetheart. It was so nice to meet you.